Hi, I'm Donald McIntyre, founder of Etherplan. I research, write articles, and podcasts about the Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin, and decentralized applications. This series is Getting Started with Ethereum Classic, section Improvement Process. I'm going to read the article The Ethereum Classic Dilemma, Ethereum Parity versus Backward Compatibility. This is episode 37 of 50. The Ethereum Classic Dilemma, Ethereum Parity versus Backward Compatibility. Today, October 24th, 2019, there was an Ethereum Classic ETC developer call to define the scope and dates of the next hard fork, Agartha. It was decided by rough consensus that the upgrade will include 3 EIPs included in the Ethereum's Constantinople upgrade, and that it will be executed by mid-January of 2020. The specific block number will be announced soon. However, the discussion showed it is not a simple task to maintain and upgrade a Turing-complete, highly secure base layer blockchain as ETC. The problem that arose was that a change that was planned for Agartha, called Generalized Account Versioning Scheme, or AV for short, explained in my first article about this upgrade, was excluded from the planned hard fork because it affected parity with Ethereum ETH blockchain. The issue at hand is that AV is an upgrade that seeks to ensure backward compatibility between past smart contracts and future upgrades, or opcode additions and changes in the network. But because Ethereum does not have such feature, it means AV breaks parity between the chains. So the advanced tooling in Ethereum becomes incompatible with Ethereum Classic unless someone maintains them specifically for ETC. The dilemma that was presented is that the ETC core developer team has to make a trade-off between backward compatibility, a fundamental principle in secure blockchains, and Ethereum parity, a desired feature that makes it easier and seamless for both ecosystems, dApps, and developers to work on both chains. The issue would be greatly minimized if resources were dedicated to adapting the tools available in Ethereum to ETC. But that is not the reality of ETC at this time. Given the above dilemma, it was decided that the easy changes of the 3 EIPs in Constantinople will be made, and AV will be postponed. However, my position, and to minimize disruption of today's decision, is that I support the decision, but that ETC has to discuss the deeper issues that popped up in the discussion, especially after the call in the ETC Discord, in another call soon. Also, to not leave out extra issues that were ignored in the call, such as ECIP 1043 DAC size, ECIP 1047 SHA-3 mining algorithm change, and ECIP 1049 gas limit reduction. Proposed agenda for a potential next call. 1. Parity with Ethereum versus backward compatibility. In my opinion, backward compatibility is a key guarantee that a base layer, highly secure blockchain must have. Smart contracts in ETC should work for 100 years. Backward compatibility is a critical feature that enables trust minimization and immutability. Trust minimization because it eliminates the need for core developers to decide on an upgrade by upgrade basis what past stored smart contracts will be compatible or what percentage may break. Immutability because it is obvious that if a smart contract has even a minimal risk that it will not function correctly in the foreseeable future, then that code cannot be considered immutable. Therefore, parity, although very important, has to be either achieved by other means after Agartha, or it has to be relegated to a secondary priority as related to backward compatibility going forward. 2. Account versioning and versionless EVM. ETC core developer Sorpas has written the original specification for backward compatibility using not only AV, but also with what he termed versionless EVM. These are the links he provided to analyze the latter and should be included in the call. 3. Breaking or not breaking ETH tooling. As explained above, the main problem of implementing account versioning is that it would make existing ETH tooling incompatible with ETC. I think it has to be debated whether that is such an important topic as to violate backward compatibility. If it is feasible to request to Ethereum tooling developers to adapt them to ETC, if ETC can reallocate resources to maintain such tooling, or if the goal of tooling compatibility has to be abandoned altogether as described above. 4. ECIP 1043, ECIP 1047, and ECIP 1049. There were some topics in the agenda that were included but not addressed. ECIP 1043 and ECIP 1047, and one that was not included in the agenda, ECIP 1049, but had been an important point of discussion in ETC recently. It would be good and respectful to the authors to include those items in the next call. 5. Forking frequency. One thing that has been a recurring commentary in ETC is the frequency of hard forks. Bitcoin's smaller argument surface increases its social scalability. Quote, "The more functions a currency has, the more things there are to argue over. Bitcoin's uncompromising focus allows it to serve a broader user base," unquote, by Nick Szabo. It seems many in the ecosystem are not sensitive to the risks and argument surface expansion that hard forking frequently creates. It was a known and planned series to do Atlantis, Agartha, and Phoenix, but indefinite and frequent upgrades to the chain are a significant security risk that undermines trust minimization, thus immutability. Perhaps a long-term ideal hard fork frequency, something like once a year maximum, could be discussed in the next call or on ETC forums. 6. The concept that the community decides. It was mentioned that in any case, what the community decides has to be done. This means if parity is more important to the community, then backward compatibility has to be postponed. However, that is not how base layer secure blockchains work. If there's a set of principles to live by, when those have to be upheld, even if the majority of the ecosystem doesn't like it. Again, immutability is an illusion if basic things as backward compatibility are decided by the community. That was the philosophy followed by Ethereum in 2016 to do the DAO hard fork, which is precisely the reason ETC exists. There is no such thing as the community. If participants have no sensibility to basic principles of security, that mindset must not prevail when implementing change in ETC. Conclusion, keeping it real. Even if blockchain principles should be a certain way as described above, there is, in fact, an unavoidable physical reality in Turing-complete blockchains such as ETC, complexity. Complexity has the problem that there can be bugs that have to be fixed, and when fixing them, they can break things, even backward compatibility. An example of this could be an emergency hard fork. However, this is a legitimate case for doing so as catastrophic outcomes need to be averted. The other problem is that to make some desired security upgrades and added functionality, there can be instances intentionally or unintentionally, in which a very small percentage of historic smart contracts, say 0.1% or less, may be broken. These instances must be minimized as much as possible, but it is also true that applications, IoT, and Layer 2 systems developers should follow best practices and account for these risks when building on top of blockchain technologies. In other words, they have to build robust software with conservative and proven designs in such a way that reduces the risk that future changes will break their functionality. But again, this must not free ETC core developers of the task of making the network as backward compatible as possible. Thank you very much.